Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Jack Cooper. I'm Commercial Director of RT7 Digital. I've been working with Amazon for just over 10 years now, so quite a long time. We've really specialized and honed in our expertise into Vendor Central. So keen to share some insights today from all of the time that we've spent in 1P accounts over the last 5 years, and hopefully bring some knowledge to you that you're not currently aware of, just really giving a different angle that we have from looking at so many accounts and seeing what are different trends and key take homes. So that's what we're going to be going into today. Um, there's a number of things that we see as trends when we review vendor accounts. So the first step is always to run an audit or a review. And some of the key things that we identify is firstly how fragmented the systems are within Vendor Central. So I think this is true actually for a lot of different areas of Amazon, that you have individual parts of how Amazon is built in the back end that work okay as standalone, but the way that they communicate with each other is pretty poor. And that's what actually I think causes a lot of challenges for both vendors and sellers when it comes to actually understanding the data and reconciling and making sure that they have a true handle on knowing that the data is correct. Many actually struggle to ever get there, and they just sort of accept that there's going to be a variance when it comes to Amazon, but that has not been something that we have settled for, and spent a lot of time to ensure that we can help our clients and other vendors really understand their data. There's the remittance gaps as well. So often the misalignment between these systems means that there can be payments misallocated, and we'll be getting on to that a little bit later across the different reimbursement areas. But this is incredibly common, that it's really hard to actually understand the relationship between these different areas. And then when it comes to actually reviewing it yourself, you would have seen multiple SCR against a specific invoice. So I think when it comes to actually, we work with quite a few teams that have teams working on this themselves, and even still with the key attention, it can be very, very difficult to reconcile correctly. So what that means in practice in terms of the real impact of these missed receipts is firstly shortages. This is the most common key area that we see. There's anywhere between 2 to 8% of annual revenue we can see actually can be reimbursed and challenged, and shortages being the key one, where Amazon claims to have received less stock than they ordered on the PO. And that builds up over time. Sometimes these shortages can be very small, but they do accumulate over time. And those that are on the call most likely aware of this, and tend to probably have a lot of other things going on, a lot of other things that they need to deal with from day to day perspective. But so maybe only challenging the larger shortages, but actually sweating the small stuff is really important as well. And you've got quite a good time window still to go back on shortages, but I'll come to that a bit later. Then you've got overages. This is a term that's not as often spoken about by those that specialize in reimbursements and have vendor accounts. So overages is also another area that we've identified you can challenge, and we see a lot in audits as well. And an overage is actually the flip side of a shortage, where Amazon claims to have received more inventory than was originally submitted in the PO. Now, what you need to do in this instance, and we can always, if there's any follow-up questions or further information, we can share on how to identify these, but you actually need to raise an invoice against that overage. When we do this for our clients, we would have a specific system that would follow, so a labeling so that you can see which would be RT7s compared to the in-house team. But it's very important to pursue the overages as well as the shortages, and not just that side there. Another one, again, that I think is not talked about as much is price claims or price discrepancies. And this is where Amazon will underpay against the agreed price that was agreed for the product. And again, this is an area that you can go back and challenge. So when you're reviewing your reimbursements in your account, make sure you have a look at this. Chargebacks is actually commonly used as a term to describe everything within reimbursements, but it's actually a very specific area. You've got a shorter window with that, so you can only go back 30 days. So something to be aware of. I will come in a later slide just to give you a clear definition of the time periods that you can dispute these. But chargebacks is very much more preventative of future chargebacks. So working with your warehouse, identifying what those chargebacks are, the root cause analysis of that to prevent future ones, as opposed to being able to go back and claim them historically. And last but not least, co-ops again. We see this. Got some more content on the co-ops just now, but what we're seeing here is misbilling actually is quite common. Amazon misbilling co-ops or um, double billing in some instances, and you can challenge this and you can recover it. So it's another area when you identify these, it's really important that you have a systematic approach to addressing these different areas of reimbursements. Now, I think some key information to bring to everyone on the call today is just about the window is tightening. So those that are doing business in the US, the ship may have actually sailed to go back the full 5 years. As it currently stands, I mean, what we tend to see as a general rule with Amazon is everything starts on Amazon.com, whether it's any new advertising functionality, whether it's any new policies or closing of windows, like in this instance, and then it excuse me, and then it trickles down to other regions, UK, EU. So we are still having some success with our clients in the US for going back the full 5 years on shortages. But we are seeing with some others that that window is closing. So really important to have a close look at this now, because that 3 years is going to be lost. And once that's gone, then you've got no opportunity to dispute that period of time. Um, but you're still okay for now in the UK and EU. We haven't seen that change. As it currently stands, you can go back 5 years with shortages. We challenged previous 3 years with overages, so it's a little bit less. We don't go back 4 or 5 years, don't have any success in that period of time. Price claims as well, you can go back the full 5 years, as well as co-ops. So most everything but shortages, I think it's best to stick to the 5 years as opposed to reducing that window to a shorter length of time. So if you are listening to this and you have a team working on this, or you know someone is, ask them these questions. How far back are you going? Have you run an audit of the previous period of time? Because I would really recommend you do so before you lose that window of opportunity. And another thing as well is when we review accounts, we often see that Amazon is introducing new attributes that you need to fill out in the back end. So these are originally they become as suggested, and this is really important. I suggest on a quarterly basis, maybe yeah, I'd say once a quarter would be suitable for you to look and check your products, make sure that any attribute fields in the back end have been updated. The thing that's really driving this change is Rufus and the Rufus AI integrated into Amazon search that is resulting in a lot of shoppers now using AI, which means that the AI reads the listing the LLM differently to what would be driven by normal keyword search. So optimizing for AI search is massive. As you can see on the screen here, this gives you an example of where additional information is required. But what this means for you in practice is if you're not aware of these changes and you're not updating your listing from a technical standpoint, it can then result in listing suppression and search suppression. So we flag this with any account that we're looking through. Because if your listing gets suppressed, you then will need to log a ticket to reopen that. And then in that period of time, you may as well be out of stock. So you know how what damage that can do to your ranking, your performance if you're out of stock on a listing or you're suppressed for a period of time. So really, really important to keep on top of this. I cannot stress enough that the impact that it has, just these smaller things will have. Now, are you overpaying for your co-ops? We tend to get some really good feedback on this because we, as I said, have had a view of so many different vendor accounts that it allows us to really benchmark what's normal, what's not. Amazon, as you know, they'll push their luck where they can and really try to drive up. You can always go up, and you tend to really struggle to go down. So what we tend to see here is on this is the kind of range for MDF and accruals. But we always with our clients would want to be getting that, in your annual vendor negotiations, getting that marketing development fund down to that 5%, as close to it as you can. I'm yet to see any evidence of what that's spent on. And a little bit later, I'll discuss maybe how to best approach the negotiations with Amazon. But just so you know, if you are looking at this and you're sitting on that higher end there, really should be looking to drive that down, and that should be a key area to discuss because they won't shift more than 5%. But as I said, yet to see any evidence of them using that for anything other than to line their own pockets. Damage allowances wise, we tend to see that in a range of between 2.5% to 7%. Of course, that depends on your product, category, etc. But this is the range that we see on most accounts. AVS. Now, AVS is a very interesting one. We work with vendors that have AVS, some that don't. Some are very happy with the service, others not. If you are considering AVS, more than happy to have a conversation, but my feedback would be it is a bit of a luck of the draw. All depends upon the AVS manager that you have assigned to you. So they can be very proactive. Also, they're likely to change quite quickly, as I'm sure you all experience with vendor managers. I think the best thing to do is see if you can maybe switch out AVS and then reduce another percentage on your co-op to make room for it, but actually keep your overall co-op percentage the same. Then you're not in any a net worse position, but you do get the benefit of getting AVS in place. That's how we would approach it, depending on, obviously whether you have it or not and your current position. We see that there's always a new term of the year, we'd say, like whatever each year Amazon's really trying to push, like we pay is the big one right now. And it gives you an opportunity when Amazon's really wanting to introduce a new co-op. They have their KPI internally to onboard X number of vendors onto this new term. Use that to your advantage. Use Amazon coming to the table and really use that to your advantage to be able to reduce your overall percentage down. So our advice and the way that we support our clients with the negotiations is really looking at your co-ops as a whole. Ideally, you want to see that below 15% total, but really does depend. There may be some additional aspects you have. Looking at them as a whole and trying to remove that overall percentage, not getting too bogged down with the specifics. And if that means it's almost like co-op Tetris, you need to shuffle them around to make sure that they fit and that Amazon's happy. But when Amazon's bullish and wanting you to introduce a new term like we pay, for example, we were able to then support with getting an overall reduction of, say, 1% by introducing we pay. And that's around between 3 to 7. And then volume incentive rebate, also a very challenging one that tends to sit between 5 to 10% plus there. So now, just some common operational issues we see as well is this is one that we see quite a lot here, and that's listings being listed against the wrong code. The amount of vendors that we've had come to us that said, we're not getting orders for this product. How can you help us to maybe even considering Seller Central as a result? And it's just listed against a dummy code or the incorrect code. So it sounds simple if you know it, but also something to definitely be aware of there. And again, subscribe and save. A lot of products that are not are not suited to subscription and subscribe and save are listed on subscribe and save. And what that then presents an opportunity for buy shoppers to do is buy at the discounted rate and then cancel their subscription, because Amazon doesn't stop you from doing this. So it basically means you can just get a discount on a product on a one-time purchase um without that repeat purchase element. So have a look, make sure you don't have products listed against subscribe and save. This is a really, really common one that we see fall through the cracks here. Another really key one is around B2B pricing and business pricing. For those that are in the call today um, that are managing advertising in their vendor account, you'll see that Amazon's introduced business only pricing. So this is you can see they're really trying to push this aspect. You don't need to offer a massive discount, but you're giving a lot of shoppers, may you be using a business account for personal shopping. So with those listings, make sure that you have even just a marginal discount to allow you to enroll in the B2B business pricing. That will really help you increase revenue, increase visibility on different areas of the platform. So and they're even introducing business pricing as a co-op now. So there's quite a lot. When it's a priority for Amazon like that, it's good to be aware of it and definitely embrace that. Um, and again, logistics wise, Amazon says they don't have MOQ, but it's actually case packs. The amount of accounts we look at where you don't have case pack quantities set up, meaning that Amazon's POs are a nightmare because they're ordering individual products, low product numbers. So set up on a pallet code if you have one, or make sure you've got the case pack optimization in place. So what this all leads to is when you're in these discussions with Amazon, use data to support. It's really, I cannot stress enough, like how much it will impact the conversation if you really support the negotiations with data from your account and also from other vendors. Speak to other vendors, find out what terms co-ops they have in place that can support your conversations. Like for example, we know that Amazon would drop to X percentage for WePay, so we're able to then, for one of our other clients, speak to their vendor manager with that confidence and say, we know that Amazon is dropping these percentages. We know that you've would meet on this place, and then it puts them in a position that they struggle to not back down and not support you with a lower settled position on that co-op. So the typical approach with analyzing these reimbursements and that side is to run a audit. And that's an audit that, well, I mean, it's something that we would do completely free of charge to take the last 5 years of data and understand what level of lost revenue and leakage there is in the account across the different reimbursement areas, the shortages, chargebacks, overages, price claims. Now the service offering is a no-win, no-fee service, so it's something that is operated on a commission-only basis, and this is something that we do for our clients before we actually handle that dispute process. But even if you have an in-house team, this is also something that we can do alongside them as a value add basis, because it tends to be that historical data, as I mentioned, is not being looked at and looked after there. Cool. Great. Thank you, everyone. I'll welcome any questions if anyone has. You can should be able to pop them in the chat, and then I'll be able to see them. I can't hear you there, Martin. I think you're on mute, perhaps.
Yes. You clearly have to be mindful of a lot of the pitfalls there of Amazon, but if you get all of those things in the right, in the right order, then you on big potential. Particularly, you're talking about the B2B pricing side of things as well, which is obviously not what people might always first think of when it comes to Amazon. But
Yeah, I think the B2B pricing is a massive one. Because there's many accounts that I've looked at where they don't have that in place. But the amount
yeah,
of businesses now shopping on Amazon, I think this would be very, relevant to your members as well. Smaller independent stores, many of them are wanting to use Amazon as a business as well. And like I
mhm,
said, for personal shopping, we see it. They logged into their business account, they continue to use it. And that gives you, it's a whole different side to the platform in terms of the visibility. So you're tying one arm behind your back really a little bit
Yeah.
by not doing that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Vicky's that's a question there. Do we have any stats about the sales through B2B channel on Amazon in terms of the splits? What is B2B versus consumer, or does it vary by the markets that you operate in?
It would definitely vary by category, but that is something I don't have that data to hand. But we see, yeah, I think it would be, I could get something a bit more
Mm,
tailored as a follow-up we can share with this. But it really does vary a lot per category. And also some of our clients. So what you'll see with certain vendors, they are much more sensitive to offering more competitive discounts because they're afraid of resellers, for example,
yeah.
or um, they don't want to have wholesale customers being able to shop through Amazon.
Mm,
But on the other hand, that doesn't have to be the case. As I said, you could offer a small discount just to be featured on that side. So it's quite tailored strategy depending on, your current position.
yeah. I know a lot, as a lot of brands are very precious about obviously pricing sensitivity, and then people using that price as a reference to maybe look at
Yeah.
other retail outlets as well. So it is always very, very visible and very sensitive for any brand trying to pitch their way through that pricing conversation. So
Yeah. Well, luckily, only business accounts will be able to view that pricing, so it shouldn't
uh,
cause issues for RRP.
consumers, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what you were saying as well about Rufus AI kind of being used to help people and to uh, obviously, is there any other significant developments with AI that people would be aware of to sort of help them prime themselves for their Amazon listings or
Yeah, I just think it's the way that customer search is really changing now.
Mm.
So, you know, ChatGPT, Rufus, they're all being used for search. So what that looks like in practice is rather than going into Amazon
Yeah.
and searching specifically with keywords for the product, you're actually having a conversation now. You're saying to
Mhm.
Amazon, I need, maybe I've recently got into gardening. What are common tools that would be purchased? Or these might broader stroke questions to understand, like it's more research, top of funnel as well. And what that means is you need to then shoppers to be able to actually Rufus to be able to read your listing so that they can best inform shoppers. So
Yeah,
much longer tail, much more conversational, and that impacts how you structure your listing.
sure. And then another question we've got here from Amy: what are successful brands doing well to succeed, and what are poor performing companies not doing? I mean, we could probably have a whole day conference on that, but if you've got any top tips, you could just surmise there.
Yeah, I'd say embracing the change and also
Hmm.
spending time, allocating time into really understanding, like look at whether it's outside of Amazon as well. What are your key sales channels as a business? And investing time and really understanding how those are changing. Whether it's an hour a day just set aside to be able to just keep on top of this, or half an hour to reading up on these changes and testing and learning. I mean, a lot of brands, it was actually a classic example of this was during COVID, where a lot of companies just had a huge uplift through Amazon. And as a
Mm,
result, Amazon suddenly became this important channel to them, right? Before that, it wasn't. And then for us on the agency side, we then had a lot of companies coming to us after COVID, like, okay, well, our sales are declining. We don't know what we're doing. We've got no one in house that understands this channel. Help us. And it's a lot
yeah.
harder as an agency to come in and save a sinking ship rather than, work with a team that really understand things in detail. And I think
Mm,
this is what we're going to see with the AI, with this AI, this rate that AI is changing, those that are really like keeping up to speed with it and allowing their business to change
yeah,
as a result are the ones that are going to be successful. And those that get left behind are going to be paying a lot of money to pick up the pieces in 4 years' time. So
yeah.
that would be what I would say is really the most important thing to do.
And I think just from my perspective, I was creating Amazon listings a couple of years ago, and it was all very much about keywords and hitting all those things. But in that short space of time, obviously that conversation has now moved on quite significantly as to your
Yeah.
listing preparation. So it, it's obviously still going to be about the keywords, but how do you optimize your search for AI is within those kind of listing parameters that you get?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Um, and then we've just got another question that's come through. Do you have to consider different approaches to trading on Amazon based upon the country you're targeting?
Do you have to consider different approaches? Yeah, I would say, well, certainly with the content, that hasn't changed, but I think
Yeah.
localization of copy and that is ever as important as ever, like, not just translating, but making sure your copy reads as if written by a local. I think we're very sensitive to reading, like if you read English that is not written correctly, you're
Mm.
immediately turned off. You've
Yeah.
immediately got that like distrust in the brand, the products, and we've helped brands expand to Germany, for example, that are English, and it's like huge. You can't translate English to German straightforward. It needs to be rewritten.
Hmm.
So I'd say that would be a key one. And then also expectations like of the customer, normally like shipping time, there's that can really differ. So where are you prioritizing your efforts? Is it on the content or is it on making sure that customers have a short shipping window because they need that product quickly? So I'd say those are two key areas that we really
Yeah.
notice in culturally.
And just I don't know if it's a final question, but we've seen a lot more marketplaces emerging in the UK, particularly that we see. Um, is that something that Amazon are aware of and having to adapt to in terms of that extra competition, or not? Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there would be. I think one thing we're seeing is because Amazon's very tight on wanting to make sure that the selling price on Amazon matches other marketplaces.
yeah,
So other marketplaces coming in that are undercutting Amazon has caused a lot of issues for our customers
yeah,
and our clients because Amazon then removes their selling permission, doesn't allow them to sell the product. So that's something that Amazon's definitely they're really, really hot on scanning other marketplaces, making sure that they're the most competitive, and then punishing their vendors or sellers
right,
if they're not. So this whole price matching, especially for vendors, most relevant to this call now, the price matching is huge. Like Amazon will discount if they see that the product is being sold, and then what that does is that damages your net PPM. So
yeah,
it means that Amazon then, when annual vendor negotiations come round, will come back to you and want a much lower price because they're not profitable. So it's this snowball effect that has a really bad effect on the relationship. So
mm.
yeah, it's definitely affecting. That would be a big thing that we're seeing.
I suppose be wary of your pricing across all channels is the message
100%,
there, so that you don't
100%,
end up it coming back to haunt you, perhaps.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else got any other questions? I think we're at the half an hour in there. So anybody, any more for any more? No? Okay. Very cool. Well, thanks for that, Jack. Yes, clearly a lot to think about when it comes to Amazon, and having some guidance through that, and the insights that you see from other people's mistakes is obviously a help to
Yeah.
people thinking of plotting their way through it, or to be able to improve their listings and their sales performance.
Mm.
Just as a final for me, I don't, Jack, is there anything else you just wanted to say there before we wrap up?
No, perfect.
No.
No, thanks everyone that joined.